What's up, YouTube? This is 82 and 0. I'm going to be talking about Bud Grant, also known as Harry Grant, which is who he was born as. Bud is just his nickname. So his father was Harry Grant Sr., and I'm sure a lot of you are thinking, why are you talking about an NFL legend? This is a basketball channel. Well, actually, you played in the NBA. I'm sure a lot of people don't know that. He was born in Superior, Wisconsin on May 20th, 1927, to Harry Peter Sr. and Bernice Grant. His mother called him Buddy Boy, which was his nickname, which was shortened to Bud. Now, as a child, he was diagnosed with polio, and his doctor suggested that he become active in sports. So, in high school, he played baseball, basketball, and football. And Grant played football, basketball, baseball at Superior High School. He graduated from high school in 1945. He enlisted in the U.S. Navy during World War II. He was signed to the Great Lakes Naval Training Station in Illinois, and he played on the football team coached by Paul Brown. Using an acceptance letter from the University of Wisconsin/Madison to be discharged to the service, Grant decided to attend University of Minnesota instead. He was a three-sport, nine-letterman athlete in football, basketball, and baseball for the Minnesota Golden Gophers, earning a I said golfer. Gophers, I'm sorry, guys. Earning an all Big Ten Conference honors in football twice. While at the University of Minnesota, Grant was a member of the Phi Delta fraternity. Now let's talk about his basketball career. After leading the University of Minnesota, Grant was selected by both the NFL and the NBA draft. He was selected in the first round, 14th overall of the 1950 NFL draft by the Philadelphia Eagles, and the fourth round, 47th overall pick by the Minneapolis Lakers in the 1950 NBA draft. He played 35 games during the 49-50 NBA season, and he signed with the Lakers for the 1950-51 season. He chose to continue his basketball career with the Lakers because they were local and because they offered him a raise to stay with them for the season. Glenn's Grant's close friend, Sid Hartman, was the Lakers' general manager, and this influenced his decision to stay there. Although Grant wasn't really known for being a great NBA player, he only averaged 2.6 points per game for his two seasons as a reserve with the Lakers. But he did win a championship in 1950. Now, after the death of Arnie Ferrin in 2022, he became the oldest living NBA champion, which right now would be, I think, Bob Cousy, maybe, or Bob Harrison. Probably Bob Harrison. But anyways, after two seasons with the NBA, Grant decided to end his professional basketball career. He continued his football pursuit with the Philadelphia Eagles of the NFL, and he agreed to play for the team during the 1951 NFL season. In his first season with the Eagles, Grant played as a defensive end and led the team in sacks, an unofficial statistic at the time. He switched to offense as a wide receiver for the second with the club marked the ranked. So he would get 997 yards, 56 catches, including 7 touchdowns. Grant's contract expired at the end of the 1952 NFL season, and the NFL team, the Eagles, refused to pay him what he thought he was worth. So he would jump ship over to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, which is a part of the Canadian Football League. Now, you got to keep in mind, I know next to nothing about the history of football. So I'm not going to pretend to know about football during that time, but I can tell you he was on an instrumental team in early NBA history. The Minneapolis Lakers were the first dynasty. And it's cool how he got a championship with them. Um, so he didn't have a very successful career in terms of football or basketball. He wasn't the best player. I mean, he made it. That's all that counts. But he wasn't like a Hall of Fame level player. He played for the Blue Bombers until 1956 as an offensive end and was named the Western Conference All-Star 3 times. He led the Western Conference in pass perception for the 53, 54, and 56 seasons. The Blue Bombers played for the Grey Cup in 1953, but lost to the Hamilton Tiger Cats in the 41st Grey Cup game. So, let's talk about his coaching career. The Blue Bombers management decided that they needed a coach prior to the 1957 NBA season. Why'd I say NBA? I'm sorry, guys. Canadian Football League season. On January 30th, 1957, Grant accepted the Blue Bombers' head coaching position, and after impressing management with his ability to make adjustments on the offense and the defense as a player. Club president J.T. Russell thought Grant would be even better as a coach. Now, during his 10 seasons as a head coach of the Winnipeg team, he led them to 6 Grey Cup appearances, winning the championship 4 times in 1958, 59, 61, and 62. He finished with the Blue Bombers' coaching career with a regular season record of 105 wins and 53 losses. Now, let's talk about his Coach of the Year performance. Grant was named the CFL Coach of the Year in 1965. Grant took additional responsibilities as a club manager between 64 and 66. But this is how a lot of people know him is the Minnesota Vikings hired Grant as their head coach on March 11, 1967, taking over for their original coach. And over his tenure as the Vikings head coach, Grant was known for instilling discipline on his teams and displaying a lack of emotion during the games. He believed that football is a game of controlled emotion and teams would not follow the head coach's lead if he were to panic or lose his poise during the game. So he wanted to keep his composure. He didn't want his players to look at him and lose it, you know. He required his team to stand at the attention and a straight line during the national anthem played before every game, and even had a national anthem practice. But in his second year, Grant led the team to a divisional championship in the first NFL playoff appearance. In 1969, he led the team to the NFL championship and their first appearance in the Super Bowl. The Vikings lost in the Super Bowl to the American Football League champion, the Kansas City Chiefs. Prior to the 1970 season, Minnesota released Joe Kapp. After starting Gary Kuzo at quarterback in 1970 and 71, the Vikings reacquired Trinken prior to the 1972 season. During the 1970s, the Vikings appeared in 3 more Super Bowls under Grant and lost each one. So he's a great coach. All right. Grant retired as the 8th most successful coach in NFL history, with an overall record of 161 wins and 99 losses and 5 ties. As of 2021, he's also remains as one of the most successful coaches in Vikings history. During his tenure with the Vikings, he led the Vikings to 4 Super Bowl games, 11 divisional titles, 1 league championship, and 3 NFC championships. Grant was the first coach to lead his team to both a Grey Cup and a Super Bowl. Now, I do want to talk about, as of 2020, 7 of Grant's assistants have become head coaches, and 1 has won a Super Bowl. And has won the Super Bowl. So anyways, let's talk about his personal life. He actually married Pat Nelson, which was like his high school sweetheart. They got married in 1950. She passed away in 2009 of Parkinson's. And as we know, Bud Grant died on March 11, 2023 at the age of 95. And after retiring, Grant became a less prominent figure, as well as supporting, and then he would get into supporting environmental reforms. He was a spokesperson against Native American hunting and fishing treaty rights in Minnesota. In 1993, Grant's efforts resulted in a death threat. In 2005, he spoke at a Capitol rally in Minnesota for the conservation of the wetlands and wetland wildlife and water. Grant addressed 5,000 supporters, saying in legislative session, "We want some action." Until his death, Grant was still listed as a consultant for the Vikings and maintained an office headquarters. In 2014, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers unveiled a statue of Coach Grant outside their field. So I think most people know him as a Hall of Fame coach. They don't know him as the NBA player, and that's why I wanted to cover him. This was when I heard about his death. To me, it's more thinking from a basketball fan. It's sad because what is there only one person remaining that played on those Minneapolis Lakers teams? Bob Harrison, I think. So we really need to preserve NBA history, mainly the founders. And this goes for any sport. Football, too. They need to hold on to their founders. Appreciate them while they're here. Hear their stories while they're here. Don't write them off as some plumber. I mean, look at this guy's story, the life he lived. So that's his story. Let me know what your thoughts are down below, and I appreciate you guys watching.